I exposed my mom's gold digger boyfriend and got a restraining order. 6 months later, my aunt tried to sabotage everything, but it backfired. I never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am, dealing with my mom's terrible taste in men and the consequences it's having on our family. I'm Natalie, 28F, and my mom, Diane, 54F, has been seeing this guy, Trevor, 57M, for the past 3 years. From the moment I met him, I knew he was bad news. To give you some context, my parents divorced when I was 12. Dad had an affair with his secretary, yeah, I know, cliché, and it really broke my mom. She was a stay-at-home mom, and suddenly she had to navigate being a single parent and getting back into the workforce. It wasn't easy, but she managed to get a job as a receptionist at a local dentist's office. We struggled financially for a while, but Mom always made sure I had what I needed. After the divorce, Mom didn't date for years. She focused on raising me and building her career. By the time I went to college, she had worked her way up to office manager. I was so proud of her. She'd come so far from those first difficult years post-divorce. When I graduated and got my first job, I encouraged Mom to start dating again. She was still relatively young, and I thought she deserved some happiness. At first, she was hesitant, but eventually, she agreed to try online dating. She went on a few dates, nothing serious, until she met Trevor. It all started when my mom introduced us at a family barbecue. This was about 6 months into their relationship, and it was the first time I was meeting him. Trevor showed up empty-handed, which I thought was weird for a first meeting. He spent most of the time bragging about his real estate business and how much money he was making. When it came time to clean up, he conveniently disappeared, leaving my mom and me to do all the work. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was just nervous about meeting me? But over the next few months, I noticed more red flags. Trevor would often forget his wallet when they went out, leaving my mom to foot the bill. He'd make inappropriate comments about other women when he thought no one was listening. Once, I even caught him flirting with my best friend at my birthday party. I tried talking to my mom about it, but she always brushed off my concerns. She'd say things like, "You don't know him like I do," or "He's just joking around." It was frustrating to watch her make excuses for his behavior. I think she was so happy to have someone in her life again that she was willing to overlook a lot. Things got worse when Trevor moved in with my mom last year. He claimed his apartment was being renovated, but months went by, and he showed no signs of leaving. I later found out he'd actually been evicted for not paying rent, despite his supposed successful business. I decided to do some digging. I asked around and discovered that Trevor's real estate empire was actually just one rundown property he'd inherited from his uncle. He'd been living off the rent from that single property and whatever he could mooch from my mom. The whole situation reminded me of my mom's younger brother, Uncle Pete. He was always coming up with get-rich-quick schemes and borrowing money from family members. Last we heard, he was in Florida trying to start a jet ski rental business. Mom had always been sympathetic to Uncle Pete, sending him money when he asked. I worried that her soft spot for entrepreneurs was blinding her to Trevor's true nature. I tried to talk to Mom about Trevor's financial situation, but she got defensive. She said I was being judgmental and that Trevor was just going through a rough patch. She even revealed that she'd lent him some money to invest in his business. When I asked how much, she changed the subject. The final straw came last month. My mom called me in tears, saying Trevor had maxed out her credit card on a business investment without her knowledge. When she confronted him, he got angry and stormed out, saying he needed space. I was furious. I drove over to my mom's house immediately and helped her cancel the credit card and freeze her credit. We spent hours going through her finances, and I was shocked to see how much money Trevor had been bleeding from her over the past year. It wasn't just the credit card, there were numerous cash withdrawals, expensive dinners, even a Rolex watch that Mom said was a gift for Trevor's birthday. As we went through the statements, Mom started to open up about other issues in their relationship. Trevor would often disappear for days without explanation. He'd come home late smelling of alcohol and perfume. Once, Mom found a text message from someone named Candy on his phone, but he convinced her it was a client. When Trevor came back the next day, acting like nothing had happened, I lost it. I confronted him about his lies, his mooching, and his manipulation. He tried to charm his way out of it, but I wasn't having it. I told him he had 24 hours to pack his things and leave, or I'd call the police and report him for fraud. My mom was torn. She kept saying she loved him and that he'd change. I had to be firm with her too. I told her that if she let Trevor stay, I'd have no choice but to distance myself from her. It was harsh, but I couldn't stand by and watch her throw her life away for this loser. It's been a week since then. Trevor is gone, but my mom is a mess. She's angry with me for ruining her relationship, but also heartbroken over Trevor's betrayal. I'm trying to be there for her, but it's hard when she keeps defending him. She'll have moments of clarity where she admits he treated her badly, but then she'll turn around and talk about how much she misses him. I know I did the right thing, but I can't help feeling guilty. Should I have intervened sooner? Was I too harsh? How do I help my mom move on without seeming like I'm saying I told you so? This whole situation has left me feeling drained and conflicted. I'm worried about what will happen when Trevor inevitably tries to worm his way back into Mom's life. She's always been a soft touch, especially for people she cares about. How do I protect her without controlling her? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1: It's been about 2 months since my last post, and a lot has happened. First off, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. It really helped me navigate this difficult situation with my mom. After Trevor left, my mom went through a roller coaster of emotions. She was angry, depressed, and sometimes in denial about the whole situation. There were days when she wouldn't get out of bed, and others when she'd lash out at me for ruining her life. It was tough, but I tried to be patient and supportive. One particularly bad day, Mom broke down and told me more about her relationship with Trevor. Apparently, he had been manipulating her emotionally for months. He'd tell her that she was lucky to have him, that no one else would want her at her age. He'd criticize her appearance and suggest she get plastic surgery. It broke my heart to hear how he'd been chipping away at her self-esteem. About 3 weeks after Trevor left, he started calling and texting my mom constantly. He'd alternate between apologizing profusely and guilt-tripping her for kicking him out. My mom was tempted to take him back, but I reminded her of all the lies and manipulation. I even made a list of all the money he'd taken from her, which helped her see the reality of the situation. Things took an unexpected turn when Trevor showed up at my mom's house one night, drunk and belligerent. He was shouting about how he'd changed and how my mom was making a huge mistake. I happened to be there, and I immediately called the police. They came and escorted Trevor away, but not before he made a scene in front of the whole neighborhood. That incident was a wake-up call for my mom. She finally agreed to file for a restraining order against Trevor. The process was stressful, but it gave her a sense of control and helped her realize that she deserved better. To help my mom stay busy and rebuild her confidence, I suggested she join some local clubs or classes. She was hesitant at first, but eventually signed up for a pottery class. It turns out she has a real talent for it, and the class has become the highlight of her week. She's even made a few new friends there. One of those friends, Linda, 59F, has been a real blessing. She's also divorced and went through a similar situation with a manipulative ex. She's been a great support for my mom, often inviting her over for coffee or taking her on walks in the park. We've also been working on getting her finances back in order. I helped her set up a budget and we're slowly paying off the debt Trevor left her with. It's been eye-opening for her to see how much money she actually has when she's not supporting Trevor's expensive habits. One day, while going through some old boxes, Mom found her old sketch pads from college. She used to love art but gave it up when she got married and had me. Seeing her old drawings sparked something in her. She started sketching again, just for fun at first, but it's quickly becoming a passion. She's even talking about maybe selling some of her pottery and sketches at local craft fairs. There have been setbacks, of course. Last week, we ran into Trevor at the grocery store. He tried to approach my mom, but she stood her ground and told him to leave her alone. I was so proud of her in that moment. Later, she admitted that seeing him made her heart race, but not in a good way. She said she felt afraid and angry, but not tempted to take him back. It felt like progress. I'm still worried about my mom's vulnerability to manipulative people, but I'm trying not to be too overbearing. We've had some good talks about self-worth and recognizing red flags in relationships. She's even considering seeing a counselor to work through some of her issues. One unexpected outcome of this whole situation is that it's brought Mom and me closer together. We've always had a good relationship, but now we're talking more openly about our feelings and experiences. Mom's even opened up about her marriage to my dad and the affair that ended it. It's helped me understand her better and why she might have been vulnerable to someone like Trevor. As for me, this whole experience has been exhausting, but I feel like I'm finally getting my mom back. The mom I remember from before Trevor came into our lives. She's starting to laugh more, and she's making plans for the future again. There's still a long way to go, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Thank you all again for your support. I'll keep you updated on how things progress. Update 2. Hey everyone, it's been about 6 months since my last update, and I wanted to share some developments in my mom's situation. The good news is that my mom has been sticking to her guns about Trevor. The restraining order is still in place, and she hasn't tried to contact him. She's been focusing on her pottery and has even started selling some of her pieces at local craft fairs. It's been great to see her passion for something that doesn't involve a manipulative man. Mom's been making steady progress in her personal growth. She's been going to therapy regularly, which has really helped her process the emotional trauma from her relationship with Trevor. She's also been reading self-help books about setting boundaries and recognizing healthy relationships. It's like watching her rediscover herself. However, we hit a bump in the road last month. My mom's sister, Aunt Karen, 56F, came to visit from out of state. I've always had a strained relationship with Aunt Karen. She's the type who thinks she knows best about everything and isn't afraid to voice her opinions. During her visit, Aunt Karen found out about the whole Trevor situation. Instead of being supportive, she criticized my mom for letting a good man go and suggested that maybe Trevor wasn't as bad as we were making him out to be. She even had the audacity to say that my mom was too picky at her age and should have worked things out with Trevor. I was furious, but I tried to keep my cool for my mom's sake. I calmly explained to Aunt Karen all the things Trevor had done, including the financial abuse and his drunken episode. But Aunt Karen just waved it off, saying all relationships have their problems. The worst part was that my mom started to waver. She began questioning whether she'd been too hasty in cutting Trevor off. It was like all the progress we'd made was suddenly at risk because of Aunt Karen's misguided advice. I decided to take action. I sat down with my mom and reminded her of how far she'd come. We looked at old photos of her from when she was with Trevor and compared them to recent ones. The difference in her appearance and demeanor was stark. She looked happier and healthier now. I also reached out to some of Mom's new friends from her pottery class. They organized a surprise dinner for her, where they all shared stories about how much they enjoyed her company and how talented she was. Seeing herself through their eyes really boosted my mom's confidence. As for Aunt Karen, I had a frank conversation with her before she left. I told her that while I appreciated her concern, her comments were harmful and undermining my mom's progress. I asked her to either be supportive or keep her opinions to herself. She wasn't happy about it, but she agreed to back off. The whole episode was stressful, but it actually ended up strengthening my mom's resolve. She realized that she didn't want to go back to the way things were with Trevor, no matter what anyone else thought. We're now working on setting better boundaries with family members who might not understand the situation. My mom is learning to stand up for herself more, which is amazing to see. On a lighter note, Mom's pottery business is really taking off. She's been invited to showcase her work at a local art gallery next month. She's nervous but excited. I've been helping her prepare for the show, and it's been a fun project for us to work on together. There's still work to do, but I'm proud of how far we've come. Thanks again for all your support, everyone. Update 3. Hey Reddit, it's been almost a year since this whole ordeal began, and I wanted to give you all a final update on the situation with my mom and Trevor. First off, I'm happy to report that my mom is doing really well. She's continued with her pottery and has even started teaching beginners classes at the local community center. It's been amazing to see her confidence grow as she shares her skills with others. Her art show at the gallery was a huge success. She sold several pieces and even got a commission from a local restaurant to create custom plates for them. It's not making her rich, but it's providing a nice supplemental income and, more importantly, giving her a sense of purpose and accomplishment. As for Trevor, we haven't heard from him in months. The last we knew, he'd moved to another state for a fresh start. Good riddance, I say. Mom still has moments where she thinks about him, but they're becoming less frequent and less emotional. The big news is that my mom has started dating again. Now, before you worry, let me assure you that she's taking things very slowly and cautiously. She met a guy named Bill, 59M, at a fundraiser for the local animal shelter. They bonded over their love of dogs and have been on a few casual dates. I was nervous when my mom told me about Bill, but I've met him a couple of times now, and he seems genuinely nice. He's respectful, has his own successful veterinary practice, which I verified, and most importantly, he doesn't try to mooch off my mom. They're taking things one day at a time, which I think is healthy. My mom and I have had some good talks about what she's learned from the Trevor experience. She's much more aware of red flags now and isn't afraid to ask tough questions early on in a relationship. She's also committed to maintaining her independence, regardless of her relationship status. One of the most positive changes I've seen in Mom is her renewed interest in her own hobbies and friendships. She's joined a book club, started volunteering at the animal shelter, and even signed up for a painting class to expand her artistic skills. It's great to see her living such a full life. As for me, I've learned a lot too. I'm trying to find a balance between being supportive and letting my mom make her own decisions. It's not always easy, but I think we're in a much better place now. I want to thank everyone who's followed this story and offered advice and support along the way. Your encouragement really helped during some tough times. While I hope I never have to deal with a situation like this again, I feel better equipped to handle challenges in the future. Here's to new beginnings and healthier relationships for everyone.